This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Some say that to be creative, you need to have lived an interesting life. But Steve Grasse says that with the right awareness and attitude, anyone can hone their creativity and inspire change in their field, even the world at large. Mr. Grasse is founder of Quaker City Mercantile in Philadelphia and creator of brands like Hendrick's Gin, Sailor Jerry Rum, and Tamworth Distilling. He says by keeping an open mind, taking risks, and developing authenticity, it's possible to channel basic entrepreneurial spirit into a brand, a business, a creative practice, even a life that breaks with tradition and achieves the remarkable. Steve Grasse joins us as our guest on Bizgnus Interviews. Stephen, you have written a book recently that kind of upends a lot of people's thinking about where do we get good ideas. Tell us about the book.
The book is called Brand Mysticism, and it is a mystical journey of how I created some of my more famous brands, such as Sailor Jerry Rum and Hendrick's Gin, to name two. And it goes through the process, which is a very non-traditional process of how we create. So it's kind of like a cosmic stream of consciousness.
Is this you creating on your own, or is this you creating with a team of fellow creators?
Well, I have a team of 65 Mouseketeers that work with me to create. So my business has been in business for 33 years. And we are leaders in the alcohol beverage industry in terms of brand creation, brand management, and anything to do with booze. I'm your guy.
Well, how on earth did you get into that? Was it after a college drinking fest or something?
No, I got into it through cigarettes. So we started in the tobacco business. I was the guy who did everything with RJ Reynolds: Camel, Winston, Salem, Cool, American Spirit. And they paid us, I always call it monopoly money, because it was just, I was like in my 20s, it was like not real. It was just flowing like magic. So we took that money and created our own brands. And one of those brands was called Sailor Jerry Rum, and it became the fastest growing rum brand in the world. And 12 years ago, I sold it for quite a lot of money. And then I said, you know what? That was fun. Let's just stay in this business and not do anything else besides alcohol. So since then, we've created a bunch of big brands, and we get consulting gigs from all the big companies all over the world.
Let's go back to the first rum. What did you know about rum to start a rum business?
Not a damn thing. I just knew. Well, I started the clothing company first. So Sailor Jerry was a clothing company, and we sold T-shirts with the artwork of old school tattoo artist Norman Sailor Jerry Collins. And one of my advertising clients that wasn't tobacco was William Grant & Sons, and they make Glenfiddich and Balvenie whiskey, and they asked me to create a rum for them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to name this rum brand after my clothing company, and maybe I'll sell more T-shirts. And I was smart enough to retain ownership of the brand. And when it took off like a magic bullet, I was the one who had the ownership of it. So they bought it from me. So it was a very smart, learning experience on intellectual property and ownership. So the other famous brand we created, Hendrick's Gin, which is massively famous all over the world. I created, but I did that as a work for hire. So work for hire means, I didn't own the brand. So, we got paid very well for Hendrix, but not the same way we got paid for Sailor Jerry. So the moral of the story is own your ideas if you can.
Own the ideas, but you don't necessarily have to know much about what it is you're selling, is it?
No, I mean, what we did with Sailor Jerry that was amazing was a simple idea. It was the punk rock Captain Morgan. What we mean by that was Sailor Jerry rum is 92 proof, Captain Morgan is 80 proof. So for a buck more, you got a lot more rocket fuel. Okay. And it was a much cooler brand. So it was based on old school tattoo and, motorcycle driving, uh, punk rock, old school tattoo versus Captain Morgan, which is like college frat boy stuff. So when the brand took off, um, we grew the brand by having giving rum to having bands play at our store, and then we'd load up their van with cases of rum, and they would drive to the next city, and they would hand it out to their friends when they were couch surfing, and it kind of grew very organically. And there you have it. So I didn't need to know about it. What I knew about I knew how to market and get the word out in a viral way without using traditional advertising because we were doing cigarettes. And we always call cigarettes the marketing Marine Corps because you had to be able to sell the darn things without being allowed to do anything. So you weren't allowed to do traditional marketing. So somehow we figured out how to, you know, get cigarettes in hands without having to run TV or radio. So when it came to spirits, all those tricks of the trade came in very handy.
Because at that time, advertising hard liquor on radio or television, while not banned by the
Well, it's
government,
also there
was
was no
banned by the
budget.
trade organizations.
We had no budget for it.
Oh, and you had
So
no budget. Oh, picky,
no,
picky.
no. So it's kind of like and increasingly now, American spirits have gone through a renaissance where you can advertise on television and radio. But I still don't think that's the best bang for your buck. I think the best bang for your buck is to create a brand that's very differentiated. We always say, like, if you look at the Hendrix bottle, it doesn't look like anything else on the market. The liquid's highly differentiated. It's got rose and cucumber in it. And the brand world that we created around Hendrix is doesn't look like anything else. So if you do it right, it'll just sell itself, and you don't need to run ads on the Super Bowl.
When you were creating Hendrix,
Yeah.
how difficult was it to sell the company on your ideas?
um, well, at the time, I've been working with the Grant family for 28 years now. And when we created Hendrix 24 years ago, they were a very different company and they just kind of let it fly. Same with Sailor Jerry. I think today there'd be a very different process in place, more of a, you know, much more of a process oriented stage and gate situation that a lot of big companies have. But at the time, they let it fly. And because they're a family business, they let it grow in a meandering, natural way, as opposed to a lot of the bigger companies want to see results within 6 months or they pull the plug. So it's a very different. I owe a lot of that to the Grant family's intelligence of and just being a family company that's been around for 150 years. You know.
Well, told us about two of your wild successes.
Yes.
Surely you've had some disappointments.
Yeah. Not too many, but there's been a few. My best belly flop was a wine brand called Spody. There's a famous early proto rock and roll song called Wine Spodioti. I think the singer's name is Styx McGee, and it came out in the 40s. It's a great song. It's been covered by a million times, Jerry Lee Lewis, everybody. But Spody was a Spodioti was a fortified wine, meaning that it was wine where you add extra alcohol into it. So that's what vermouth is. That's what a lot of fortified wine is a what we call a modifier. So it's what you use to make cocktails with to modify a cocktail base spirit. But our Spody wine, there's several reasons that it didn't work. The biggest was our packaging. It came in an old-fashioned milk bottle, and we never got the closure right on the bottle. So it has a wide mouth bottle, and the bottle's leaked. Okay, so if you're trying to instill confidence in your distributors, that was the first big screw up on that. Second thing was the liquid was just good enough. It wasn't really great. So there were some super rabid Spody fans out there, but not enough of them. And when you combine the third element of that was what's one of the few products I've done where I've had partners. I usually don't have partners. I usually do things. We self-fund everything we do, but we had partners on this one, and partners had very different ideas on goals and things. So I feel like bad liquid, okay liquid, disastrous packaging, and disastrous partner relationship, and the whole thing just collapsed. So each time you learn, move on.
Will you ever have partners again?
I have a new product out called the Pathfinder, which is our first foray into the emerging non-alcoholic spirits category. So it's a hot new trend to create distilled spirits that have the alcohol removed. I know you look at me like that's
why
crazy.
would anybody buy that? Pray tell.
Uh, that's what I thought when we first were approached by this. But the two partners, one of the partners I'd worked with before at Diageo, and I worked with him on Guinness, and he ran Johnny Walker, and then he left Diageo and approached me and said he wanted to get into this category. And I said, I'll only do it if the liquid is amazing and it just happens to be non-alcohol. It's not, so it transcends the category.
So instead of putting non-alcoholic first, you put the
Don't even know
quality
it's not
first.
you don't even realize. So what we've created is a non-alcoholic Amaro. Amaro is a bitter. So Campari is an Amaro. Aperol is an Amaro. So our it's called the Pathfinder. It's named after John C. Fremont, who was the Pathfinder. 1840s. He kind of a trailblazer, but the brand has botanicals from the American West, and it is the liquid is just a beautiful like almost like a sarsaparilla esque amaro, very bitter. And the thing is, it mixes with everything. I always say it's like ketchup, right? You can put it in anything and it works, right? So it works with non-alcoholic cocktails, but I use it with alcohol. So it makes a great Negroni. It makes a great Manhattan. It also works in coffee. So what we've done with this product is we've opened it up so that we're in multiple distribution channels. So it works in the coffee channel, it works in the supermarket channel, it works in the alcoholic spirits channel. And we were on so many top 10 lists this year, New York Times, Oprah, everything. The product is selling at such an insane pace, we can't make it fast enough. So that project has been a smash hit. And I did that with partners. So if the partners communicate, if we have the similar vision and they are intelligent and have the resources, and I think what happened too is the partners on this, my partner who was from Diageo knows as much about spirits as I do, and he knows it from a different angle, in terms of you know brand management and distribution, and it's been a dream. It's been really great. So
When you came up with the name Pathfinder,
yeah,
did you was that a result of 85,000 focus groups and you
we don't do
blah blah
any
blah?
focus groups. Focus
Pardon?
groups, focus groups are poison. So some of our clients use research and testing, but we always say, don't ever research to find out what to do next. Research to test your instinctive hypothesis. Okay. So you should have an idea. You should know what you want to do. And then if you want to do a round of research to make sure that your intuition was correct, great. But if you want to use research to find out what to do next, big mistake. So the Pathfinder name, and my book is all about this. Like, if you want to create interesting things, you must be an interesting person. And to be an interesting person, you need to turn off social media and read some books. Okay? Read old books, read actual books, read them all the way through, read the classics. Um, don't look at the news. My New Year's resolution, I deleted all my news apps. Politics is the lowest form of conversation. Just talk about ideas. That's my preaching.
When it comes to hiring people, who are you looking for? And do you find what you're looking for in young people, or are they too buried in their phones?
What I do is I like to recruit right out of college before you've had a chance to be destroyed by someone else, and I will bring you into my culture, and then we'll train you. A lot of my employees have been here for over 2 decades, and uh, yeah, one employee's been here for 31 years. We've been in business for 33. So, um, and then we bring in lots of new talent all the time, train them, and people rarely leave because the work's very interesting.
When you go to pitch your services to a company, do
Yeah.
they come to you first, or do you
Yes.
go prospecting?
We never prospect. We you come to me and I won't pitch the business. You just give it to me.
Do you find people suddenly the suits turn on their heels and go back to New York or someplace?
No, no. By the time you get here, you know who we are, what we do, and you have a very specific project in mind for us because we don't. I honestly believe we're the only people in the world that do what we do the way we do it. So we get clients from all over the planet, and and uh, it's also you kind of know when you work with us. It's it's a collaborative process, but it's also a very artistic process. So a lot of the stuff that you normally do, like I think a lot of times clients bully their agencies. That doesn't happen with us because we're not your agency, we're your partner, right? So and again, like most of our clients, we stay with for decades. Once we enter a relationship, it tends to last for a very long time.
How do you get the best out of your employees? Do you see them as worker bees or partners within your own organization?
Both. I mean, I think everyone's enthralled with the magic we create, and they're excited to be part of it and to be contributing to it. So it's not a job, it's a it's a calling because for me, creativity is spirituality, and what we create is not. I mean, if you do it right, the money just comes. We don't do it for money. We do it because the process is a form of religion or spirituality. And the clients that we attract view what they're doing in a similar sense. So it's a very different way of working. And what's interesting too, like I think a lot of ad agencies, people pull all nighters and they work weekends. We don't do any of that. Everyone's out of here by 6 o'clock. We don't. No one works weekends. I mean, it's like it's a very different. I think it's one of the reasons people stay. You work hard, and I'm a tough creative director, but it's not. Um, it's because I think we're only working on projects that we all have a passion for. So we're not doing pharma and you know just stuff that no one believes in. We're only working on projects that people have a strong feeling for. It's like I'm not selling, kids cereal that make them diabetics and shit. It's like I think we're selling spirits to consenting adults, and I feel like the way we create. So we have a distillery in New Hampshire that we bought or that we built with our money from Sailor Jerry, and that distillery is the purest expression of what we do. It's everything we make up there is scratch made. We mill our own grains. We grow a lot of our own uh, botanicals, and it's the pinnacle of what we believe in, and it's why we always say that we know more about the spirits industry than our clients do, because we live it, breathe it, and we know that distillery in New Hampshire is set up as a test kitchen for what's possible in the world of spirits. All right, so it's very different. It's not our goal isn't to be a massive distillery. Our goal is to be the most interesting um, distillery in America, which we are, and eventually the world. So we got famous. We got a lot of press because we've created some very strange whiskeys. One of them uses the anal gland of the beaver. It's called castoreum, and the whiskey's called Eau de Musk. We make a whiskey out of called the Deer Slayer that's made with venison, with actual venison. We make a whiskey called Bird of Courage, which is it's like wild turkey, but with an actual wild turkey in it. So very interesting things. We do these hand forged gins uh, that are seasonal, and we actually go out and collect spruce tips and wild juniper. So it's a very different. It's almost cult like.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel pressure, either from within yourself or outside, to come up with something all the time? Do you ever feel drained creatively?
No, but I drain those around me because I'm relentless. It never ends. I've always got an idea. What we have is we have I, the reason I like money is it's a tool to create more. We don't view money as a means to an end. Like I don't want a mansion in Palm Beach and shit. That stuff. Sorry, stuff like that. What I want is money as a tool. Money is a way to create more, and it's a race against time because we're only on the planet for so long.
Oh, Stephen, you've been one of the most interesting guests we've had in ages on these podcasts. But what would you like to add that I just haven't been able to come up with the right question to bring it out?
I don't know. You know what? I think our world would be a much better place if people thought more consciously about why they're creating and what they're doing, as opposed to making money. Just do something. Do some. You do good for the planet if you create something that's beautiful and doesn't hurt anybody in the process. And that's if people did more of that, I think we'd be a much better place.
One quick last thing, and that is, how can people get in touch with you? Do you have a website you'd like to
Yes.
talk about?
QuakerCityMercantile.com. If you go on there in the contact section, you can it'll reach me.
Is that a place you go for inspiration?
Yes, we have a farm there as well, and it's where I go to. Thoreau spent a lot of time in the town of Tamworth, and we have his journals, and we know he fished in the creek, the river. We call it a creek in here, but up there it's a river, right behind our distillery. The Transcendentalists spent a lot of time in Tamworth. It's a beautiful place.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.